There's a small supermarket in Kyoto where something interesting happens every day. People walk past entire shelves without slowing down. They don't stop to compare every new label. They don't pick up 5 different bottles and study the ingredients. They simply reach for the same soy sauce, the same bag of rice, or the same laundry detergent they've trusted for years. Not because they're afraid to try something new, and not because they don't enjoy shopping. They've simply made the decision before they ever walked into the store. The product already works. It has earned a place in their home. So, a brighter package, a limited edition label, or a slightly newer version isn't enough to replace it. Now compare that with a very different kind of shopping experience. Someone is standing in front of 30 different brands of bottled water, trying to decide which one looks healthier. Someone else is scrolling through hundreds of phone cases for a phone they bought 6 months ago. And somewhere, another person is buying one more organizer to deal with the clutter created by the organizers they already own. I think most of us have been that person at some point. We tell ourselves we're being careful, we're comparing options, we're trying to make the best choice. But sometimes, all those choices don't make life better. They just make us less certain about what we already have. And that raises an interesting question. Why do some people keep searching for something better, while others stop searching once something works? The answer isn't that Japanese people dislike shopping. Japan has incredible department stores, highly competitive brands, exciting convenience stores, and one of the most sophisticated retail cultures in the world. The difference is quieter than that. In many Japanese households, usefulness is allowed to build trust. When something continues to do its job, it doesn't have to compete with every new product that appears on the shelf. And before buying something else, there is often one simple question worth asking. Does what I already have still work? That question may sound small, but once you start asking it honestly, it can change almost everything you bring into your home. There's a Japanese word that helps explain this way of thinking. It's called Mottainai. People often translate it as, "what a waste." But that translation only captures part of it. Mottainai is the feeling you get when something still has value, but you throw it away before that value has been fully used. It could be food left on a plate, a shirt that still fits, a chair that only needs a small repair, a notebook with most of its pages still empty. The regret is not only about losing money, it comes from realizing that something still had more to give. Now, this does not mean every person in Japan lives this way. Japanese people impulse buy, follow trends, and replace things just like people everywhere else. This is not a rule. It is simply a cultural idea worth borrowing. Because when you apply Mottainai to shopping, it becomes more than a feeling. It becomes a filter. Before replacing something, you can pause and ask, has this item truly stopped serving me? Could it be repaired, reused, or used in a different way? And maybe the hardest question of all, am I replacing the object because it no longer works, or because I am simply bored with it? I've noticed that boredom can make perfectly good things feel old. A phone can work exactly as it did yesterday, but after seeing the newest model, it suddenly feels slow. A coat can still be warm and comfortable, but after a new trend appears, it somehow feels wrong. Nothing about the object changed. Our attention did. That is why Mottainai can be so useful. Instead of asking, what should I buy next? You ask, have I finished receiving the value of what I already own? That small change in the question can slow down a lot of unnecessary purchases. It does not mean you should keep everything forever. Some things wear out, some things become unsafe, and sometimes a replacement truly improves your life. The point is not to avoid buying. The point is to make sure the old item has actually finished its job before the new one takes its place. And that question leads us to the first unnecessary purchase on this list, an object that promises to make life easier, but often ends up making the kitchen more crowded instead. The first unnecessary purchase is something almost everyone has brought home at least once. A kitchen gadget designed to do one very specific job: an avocado slicer, an egg separator, a banana cutter, a garlic peeler. A tool made only to remove the center of a pineapple. At the store, these things seem harmless. Most of them are inexpensive, they look clever, and for a moment, they make cooking feel like it is about to become easier. But a few months later, many of them are sitting in the back of a drawer, not because they are broken, because the job they were designed to do does not happen often enough to justify the space they take up. That is what makes these gadgets so easy to buy. The price at the checkout feels small. The real cost appears later. You feel it every time the gadget blocks the drawer, every time it hides the spatula you actually use, every time you move it aside while looking for the same knife that has handled hundreds of meals without asking for any attention. In many Japanese kitchens, especially smaller ones, tools have to earn their space. A good knife can slice vegetables, prepare meat, chop herbs, crush garlic, and handle dozens of other tasks. A cutting board works every day. A simple peeler does more than one job. A reliable pan becomes familiar over time. The goal is not to own as few tools as possible. The goal is to own tools that continue proving their value. Before buying a specialized kitchen gadget, I think it helps to use 3 simple questions. First, frequency. How often will I genuinely use this? Not how often I imagine using it. Not how often the person in the advertisement uses it. How often will it actually appear in my real life? Second, function. Does this tool perform the job significantly better than something I already own? If a knife can do the same task in a few extra seconds, the new gadget may not be saving much at all. And third, footprint. Is the usefulness of this object worth the space it will occupy? That question matters because storage is not free. Every object takes up room in your cabinet, but it also takes up a small place in your memory. You have to store it, remember where it is, clean it, move it, and eventually decide what to do with it. Take a look around your kitchen and ask yourself something. How many objects were purchased for one meal you made once? Now compare them with the knife you have used for years. One tool quietly became part of your life, the other became part of your clutter. And once you notice that difference, buying fewer gadgets does not feel like giving something up. It feels like making room for the tools that have already earned your trust. But specialized gadgets are fairly easy to recognize. The next kind of unnecessary purchase is harder to notice because it does not feel wasteful. It feels responsible. The next unnecessary purchase is harder to notice because it usually feels responsible. It happens when you are already at the store. The shampoo is on sale, so you grab 2. Toothpaste is discounted, so you buy 3. Paper towels are cheaper in a larger pack. Cleaning products might run out soon. And before long, your cabinets are filled with backups for products you have not even finished using. At first, this feels practical. You tell yourself you are saving money. You are preparing ahead. You are making sure you will not run out. And sometimes, that is exactly what you are doing. There is nothing wrong with keeping a backup. The problem begins when there is no system. Once a cabinet becomes crowded, you stop seeing what is inside. A bottle gets pushed to the back. A second one is stored in another room. A third is placed under the sink. Then, a few weeks later, you are standing in the store trying to remember whether you still have shampoo at home. You are not sure, so you buy another one. That is the strange thing about buying more, just in case. Too much inventory can create the very shortage it was supposed to prevent. Not because you actually ran out, because you lost track of what you already owned. Every extra product takes up more than shelf space. It takes up physical space. You need somewhere to store it. It takes up visual space. Every time you open the cabinet, your eyes have to sort through more things. It takes up mental space. You have to remember what you have, how much is left, and where you placed it. And it takes up decision-making space. Should you use the older bottle first? Is the sale price good enough to buy more? Do you already have one hidden somewhere? None of these decisions is difficult by itself, but repeated across an entire home, they create a quiet kind of pressure. A simple rule can prevent most of this. Keep one item in use and one unopened backup. When you open the backup, add the product to your shopping list. That way, you are prepared without turning your home into a warehouse. Of course, this rule will not fit every household. A large family may go through supplies much faster. Someone living far from stores may need to keep more on hand. Emergency preparation is important, especially for water, food, batteries, medicine, and other essential items. And buying frequently used, non-perishable goods in larger quantities can make perfect sense. The point is not that every backup is wasteful. The point is to know why you are buying it. Are you preparing for a real need? Or are you trying to calm the uncomfortable feeling that you might need it someday? Those are two very different reasons. One is based on a plan. The other is based on anxiety. A good system gives you the safety of being prepared without the burden of owning more than you can manage. Because a backup promises safety, but the next purchase promises something even more powerful. It promises a different version of you. The next purchase is more emotional because it does not just promise usefulness. It promises a different version of you. Clothing has always been connected to identity. What we wear can express confidence, creativity, culture, profession, or simply the way we want to feel that day. And Japan is certainly not outside fashion culture. Tokyo is one of the world's major fashion cities. Trends move quickly. New styles appear constantly. People enjoy clothing, follow designers, and change the way they dress just like people everywhere else. But alongside that culture, there is also a long tradition of caring for things that have already earned a place in daily life. A coat can be worn for many winters. Shoes can be repaired. A bag can become more personal as it ages. A favorite piece of clothing does not automatically lose its value just because this year's version has a different shape, color, or zipper. The problem is not buying clothes. The problem is buying mainly because a trend changed while your actual needs stayed the same. A jacket can still fit. It can still keep you warm. It can still look good. But after seeing enough advertisements, videos, and new arrivals, it begins to feel old. Again, the clothing may not have changed. Your attention did. One useful way to think about this is cost per wear. Take the price of a piece of clothing and divide it by the number of times you actually wear it. A coat that costs more but is worn 100 times may be cheaper than a discounted jacket that leaves the closet only twice. The price tag tells you what it costs to buy. Your real life tells you what it costs to own. That is why the cheapest item is not always the most economical one, and the more expensive item is not always the better one. The question is whether the clothing becomes part of your life or simply part of your closet. There is a Japanese repair tradition called kintsugi. It is usually associated with broken ceramics. Instead of completely hiding the repaired cracks, kintsugi allows the repair to remain visible. I would not use that as proof that every person in Japan treats every possession this way, but it offers a useful metaphor. Damage does not automatically erase value. Age does not automatically erase beauty. And something does not become worthless simply because it no longer looks untouched. Of course, not every damaged item should be saved. Some clothes lose their shape, some repairs cost more than replacement, and sometimes a new piece really does meet a new need. The point is not to romanticize damage or feel guilty about buying something new. The point is to stop treating newness as proof of value. Trend-driven marketing often asks a very persuasive question: who should you become next? More stylish? More successful? More confident? More interesting? And clothing seems to offer a quick answer. Buy this, and perhaps you will feel closer to that person. But before making the purchase, there may be a more honest question to ask. Is this clothing expressing who I am? Or is it helping me escape how I currently feel? Sometimes a new outfit really does express something genuine. Other times, we are asking a jacket to solve a problem that has nothing to do with clothing. That is where the purchase becomes more than fashion. It becomes emotional relief. And emotional relief usually fades much faster than the item remains in the closet. Clothing is a visible purchase. You can see it hanging there. You can count how often you wear it. But the next expense is much easier to overlook, because almost immediately after we pay for it, it disappears. The next expense is easy to ignore because it disappears almost as soon as you pay for it. A bottle of water, by itself, it does not feel like much. $1 here, $2 there. You drink it, throw the bottle away, and move on. That is exactly why recurring purchases are so powerful. Each individual decision feels too small to question. In many parts of Japan, tap water is safe to drink, so some people simply fill a reusable bottle before leaving home. It is not dramatic. It does not feel like a major financial decision. It is just one small habit that removes the need to make the same purchase again and again. Of course, bottled water still has a place. It makes sense while traveling. It matters during emergencies. Some people prefer the taste. Local conditions can change. And in a country that takes disaster preparation seriously, keeping bottled water at home can be a responsible choice. The point is not that bottled water is always unnecessary. The point is to notice when an occasional purchase quietly becomes a permanent routine, because one bottle does not look expensive. But try multiplying it. Take the amount you spend in one day and multiply it by 365. Then multiply that number by 5 years. A small daily expense can become hundreds, even thousands of dollars, without ever feeling like a major purchase. And money is only part of the cost. There is the packaging, the storage space, the weight of carrying it home, the time spent buying it again, and the small mental reminder that tells you not to forget another bottle before leaving the house. Most of these costs are almost invisible. That is why we rarely question them. We notice a large purchase because it asks for a decision. Recurring purchases are different. They often become habits before we ever decide whether the habit is worth keeping. In that sense, a recurring purchase can become a subscription you never consciously agreed to. You keep paying because yesterday you paid. And yesterday, you paid because the day before that, you did the same thing. That does not mean every repeated purchase is bad. Some products genuinely make life easier. Some save time. Some are worth the convenience. But every now and then, it helps to ask, am I paying for something I truly need every day? Or am I paying because I have never stopped long enough to consider another option? Sometimes the answer is simple. Use a reusable bottle. Make coffee at home a few more days each week. Carry a snack instead of buying one every afternoon. Not every habit needs to disappear, but every recurring expense deserves to be noticed. Because sometimes we keep buying the same product over and over. And other times, we do something even more expensive. We replace something that still works, simply because a newer version exists? Sometimes we keep buying the same product over and over. Other times, we replace something that still works simply because a newer version exists. A phone, a watch, a pair of headphones, a backpack, a coffee maker, a tablet that was supposed to make us more productive. The old item may still do almost everything we need, but then the new version appears. The camera is slightly sharper. The screen is a little brighter. The battery lasts a few hours longer. The zipper is in a different place. And suddenly, the thing that worked perfectly well last week begins to feel outdated. That feeling is not accidental. Marketing is very good at turning improvement into dissatisfaction. Innovation asks, will this solve a problem? Marketing often asks, does what you already own suddenly feel old? Those are not the same question. Japan is often associated with durability and long-used belongings, but it is also a country that loves technology, design, and innovation. Japanese consumers buy new phones, electronics, and appliances just like people elsewhere. So the lesson is not to reject new products. New technology can save time. It can improve safety. It can make work easier. It can help people with changing physical needs. And sometimes, an upgrade genuinely improves daily life. The challenge is separating meaningful improvement from emotional replacement. Before upgrading something, it helps to use a simple 3-part test. First, has the current item stopped performing an essential function? Not whether it feels less exciting, not whether it has a few scratches. Has it actually stopped doing something you genuinely need? Second, is repair impractical or disproportionately expensive? Sometimes replacing a battery, fixing a screen, sharpening a blade, or repairing a zipper can extend the life of an item for years. But there are also times when repair costs almost as much as replacement or no longer makes sense. And third, will the new item create a measurable improvement? Will it save meaningful time? Make your work more reliable? Improve safety? Support accessibility? Or solve a problem that keeps showing up in your real life? If the answer to those questions is no, try waiting 30 days. Put the item on a list instead of putting it in your cart. Then, continue using what you already own. If the problem still bothers you after 30 days, the upgrade may be worth considering. But very often, the urgency disappears. Because what felt like a need was really a moment of excitement. And that leads to one of the most useful questions you can ask before replacing anything. What are you upgrading? The device or your excitement? A new object can create a brief emotional lift. For a few days, it feels cleaner, faster, and more interesting. But excitement fades quickly. The payment may remain. The old device may sit unused in a drawer. The box may take up space in a closet. And soon, the new object becomes normal too. That does not make upgrading wrong. It simply means excitement should not be the only evidence that an upgrade is necessary. A useful purchase solves a recurring problem. An emotional replacement solves boredom for a little while. And those two experiences can feel almost identical at the checkout. The difference becomes clear later. One keeps improving your life. The other becomes another object you once felt excited to own. Yet many unnecessary purchases do not begin with a product launch. They begin with something even more persuasive. A stranger on a screen telling us that one object completely changed their life. A lot of unnecessary purchases no longer begin inside a store. They begin while we are sitting on the couch. A creator holds up a product and says, "This changed everything for me." The lighting is good. The demonstration is convincing. The comments are full of people saying they ordered one too. A few thousand likes later, the product no longer feels like an advertisement. It feels like a recommendation from someone we know. That is what makes online selling so effective. The person on the screen may not be our friend, but after watching them every week, hearing about their routines, and seeing pieces of their home and family, they begin to feel familiar. And familiarity can feel a lot like trust. But those two things are not the same. Someone can feel familiar without knowing anything about your budget, your habits, your home, or the problem you are actually trying to solve. An influencer may know the product. They do not automatically know your life. That does not mean every online recommendation is dishonest. Some creators are thoughtful. Some test products carefully. Some turn down sponsorships they do not believe in. And some recommendations are genuinely useful, but the system around online content rewards certain kinds of products more than others. A quiet product that works reliably for 10 years is difficult to turn into an exciting 30-second video. A strange gadget that creates an immediate reaction is much easier. Virality rewards surprise. It rewards speed. It rewards the feeling that you have just discovered something everyone else is about to want. Trust works differently. Trust develops through time, through consistency, through seeing what happens after the excitement disappears. That is why a product can become viral overnight while still being too new for anyone to know whether it lasts. Before buying something recommended online, I think it helps to ask 3 questions. First, does the person recommending it earn money if I buy it? There is nothing automatically wrong with affiliate links or sponsorships. People deserve to be paid for their work. But financial incentives matter. You should know when advice and advertising are occupying the same sentence. Second, have they used the product long enough to judge it? A product can look impressive on the first day. The real questions come later. Does it still work after 6 months? Is it easy to clean? Does the battery weaken? Does the fabric stretch? Does the excitement survive ordinary use? And third, does this product solve a problem in my life? Or does it simply make good content in theirs? That may be the most important question. A creator may have a large kitchen, a different schedule, a different skin type, a different income, or a completely different reason for using the product. Something can be perfect for their video and completely unnecessary in your home. The internet is very good at giving us answers before we have identified the question. We see the product first, then we start searching for a reason to need it. That is the opposite of thoughtful buying. Thoughtful buying begins with a real problem. Then it looks for the simplest solution. Impulse buying often begins with a solution and invents the problem afterward. So the next time someone says a product changed their life, pause before asking where to buy it. Ask what, exactly, it changed. Ask how long they have owned it. And ask whether the same problem exists in your life at all. Because the most valuable things in your home probably did not arrive with dramatic music, a discount code, or a countdown timer. They simply kept doing their job, quietly, year after year. But the most persuasive products promise more than usefulness. They offer us something much harder to resist, a future identity. And that leads to the final and most important thing we buy. The final purchase on this list is not really a product. It is hope. Think about the last thing you wanted badly enough to almost buy. Maybe it was a new notebook because you wanted to feel more disciplined, a pair of running shoes because you wanted to become someone who exercises every morning, a coffee machine because you imagined slower, calmer mornings, an online course because you wanted to feel productive again, a designer jacket because you wanted to feel more successful, or another organizer because you wanted to believe your life was finally about to feel under control. In each case, the object was real, but the deeper reason for buying it was often emotional. You were not only buying the notebook, you were buying the disciplined person you imagined using it. You were not only buying the shoes, You are buying the future version of yourself who wakes up early, goes for a run, and never needs to negotiate with motivation. That is why some purchases feel so powerful before we own them. They seem to offer more than usefulness. They offer a clean beginning. Imagine someone buying a new notebook at the beginning of the year. The pages are empty. The cover is clean. Nothing has been missed yet. They write in it for 3 days. Then they skip one morning. A week passes. Eventually, the notebook is placed on a shelf. Most of the pages are still blank. A few months later, they see another notebook. This one looks better. The paper feels nicer. The layout seems more organized. So they buy it. Not because the old notebook has run out of pages. The old notebook still has almost everything left to give. They replace it because the new notebook contains no evidence of the promises they failed to keep. The old one remembers. It remembers the mornings they planned to wake up early, the habits they meant to build, the version of themselves they expected to become. And sometimes, instead of returning to an unfinished attempt, we buy a new object so we can feel like we are beginning for the first time. That is what buying hope can look like. A new object gives us temporary relief from guilt. It gives us a future identity. It gives us the emotional energy of a fresh start. And most importantly, it gives us permission to begin again. There is nothing foolish about wanting a fresh start. Everyone needs one sometimes, and the right tool can absolutely help. A notebook can support a real writing habit. Good running shoes can prevent pain. A useful course can teach a valuable skill. The problem begins when buying the symbol replaces doing the work. The product was not missing. The habit was. That can be difficult to admit because purchasing something feels like progress. You researched it. You compared options. You spent money. A package is now on its way. It feels like something has begun, but preparation and progress are not always the same. Sometimes, preparation is simply a comfortable place to hide from the first difficult step. So before buying the next object that promises to change your life, ask yourself one question. If this product disappeared tomorrow, what action could I still take today? If the running shoes disappeared, could you still take a 10-minute walk? If the notebook disappeared, could you write one paragraph on a piece of paper? If the course disappeared, could you study one free lesson? If the organizer disappeared, could you remove 10 things you no longer use? If the coffee machine disappeared, could you still create a quiet 10 minutes in the morning? If the answer is yes, then you may not need to wait for the purchase. You can begin now. And if you can begin without the product, perhaps you were never really shopping for the object. Perhaps you were shopping for permission. Permission to become more disciplined. Permission to take yourself seriously. Permission to try again without carrying the weight of your previous attempts. But permission does not have to arrive in a box. You can give it to yourself, today, with what you already have. There is a Japanese idea that offers a quieter alternative to purchasing a new identity. Instead of buying the person you hope to become, you build that person slowly, one small action at a time. There is a Japanese idea that offers a quieter alternative to buying a new version of yourself. It is called Kaizen. Kaizen is often translated as continuous improvement, but it does not mean changing your entire life overnight. It means making one small improvement, then repeating it long enough for it to become part of who you are. There is nothing magical about that. It is not a secret formula. It is simply a practical reminder that real change usually grows through small actions, not dramatic purchases. Kaizen does not ask you to buy better motivation. It asks you to take the smallest, useful step available today. If you want to become a runner, walk for 10 minutes before buying expensive running gear. If you want to cook more, Prepare 3 meals with the cookware you already own before ordering another specialized tool. If you want to learn a language, study 5 new words before paying for another course. If you want to read more, finish 20 pages of a book you already have before ordering another one. If you want a more organized home, sort through 10 objects before buying more storage containers. And if you want to improve at music, photography, writing, or any other skill, practice consistently before upgrading the instrument, camera, tablet, or device. These small actions may not feel as exciting as a new purchase. There is no package arriving, no fresh box to open, no moment, evidence that you can begin, evidence that you can continue, evidence that the person you want to become is not waiting inside a product. That person is being built by what you repeatedly do. So here is a simple challenge. For the next 7 days, whenever you want to buy something that is not essential, do not immediately tell yourself no. Just pause. Write the item down. Wait 48 hours. Then ask yourself 3 questions. What exact problem am I trying to solve? Do I already own something that can solve it? And can I begin the action I want without buying anything? If, after 48 hours, the need is still real, the purchase may be worth making. But sometimes, the desire will fade. Sometimes you will discover that you already own what you need. And sometimes you will realize that the item was never the first step. The first step was something much smaller, something you could have done all along. Look around your home for a moment. The shirt still fits. The pan still cooks. The chair still supports you. The notebook still has empty pages. The phone still works. None of these objects was asking to be replaced. Your attention simply moved somewhere else. And maybe that is the deeper lesson behind all of this. The things we own do not always lose their value. Sometimes, we simply stop noticing the value they still provide. A familiar object no longer surprises us. It no longer gives us the emotional lift of something new. So we begin looking elsewhere. But usefulness is often quiet. Reliability is quiet. The objects that serve us best rarely demand our attention. They simply keep showing up, day after day, year after year. Contentment does not always come from owning the next thing. Sometimes it begins when we finally notice the value of what never stopped serving us. That does not mean you should never buy anything new. Some things wear out. Some needs change. Some products genuinely make life safer, easier, or better. The goal is not deprivation. The goal is awareness. To know when you are solving a real problem, and to know when you are simply chasing a new feeling. So before your next purchase, pause for a moment. Give what you already own one more chance to do its job, and ask yourself, do I really need something new? Or do I simply need to see what I already have with fresh eyes? Now I would like to hear from you. What is one thing you recently wanted to buy, but later realized you could live without? Share it in the comments. Because sometimes saving money is not about earning more. It is about needing less. And that decision begins long before you reach the checkout.